All right. Well, for more on this drama, we are joined by Republican Congressman from Arizona and member of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees, Andy Biggs. Representative Biggs, great to see you this morning. Who could believe that we would be going through this again just a little over a year after Kevin McCarthy was ousted? But here we go. What's so interesting to me is that Mike Johnson is known as a likable guy. Everybody seems to like him. He's known as thoughtful, smart. He's a lawyer. He gets along with both sides. But as Madeline just mentioned, he did not get that debt ceiling deal that President-elect Trump wanted. So what happens to him here? Is he able? He needs 218 votes. Does he have those votes? Can he get them?
It's pretty darn close right now, Anita. You've got one member, and actually two members, who said they're not going to vote for him. One has said under any circumstance he's not voting for Mr. Johnson. And so for Mike to become Speaker again, he's going to have everybody else. And there's a lot of discontent, particularly with what happened last week in the spending fight. But beyond that, the fact that we did that kind of spending fight 3 months ago, and then 3 months before that, and it just continues to go on. And maybe things were not done as openly and transparently. We were promised no omnibus bill. Last week's first bill sure looked like an omni. We were promised no last-minute deal on the eve of Christmas. That's what happened. I mean, there's a lot of things that people have disapprobation with Mr. Johnson about, and so he's going to have to assuage a lot of those concerns if he's going to become Speaker again. Yeah,
for sure. And like you said, he's going to have to do some assuaging. I want to take a listen to Congressman Andy Harris. He is chair of the Freedom Caucus, and what he has to say about this impending vote on Friday. Let's listen.
We're working with the Speaker's office to, change the way things are done to make sure that we can advance President Trump's agenda for the American people, and we'll see if those commitments can be made. If they can't, then next Friday could be a long day.
Wow. A long day. So Madeline and Griff were talking about what could really seal this deal is President-elect Trump coming out and giving him his firm stamp of approval. I mean, remember, the Speaker vote is January 3rd. Just 3 days later is the certification of the presidential election. I can't imagine President-elect Trump wants anything to go wrong that day. I mean, that day needs to go pretty smoothly, right?
Yeah, January 6th is the X day for us. We've got to make sure that goes about as smoothly and perfectly as it can as we rev up and get ready to go. The question, I think, and what Andy Harris was talking about is Mr. Johnson, the Speaker, has got to get together and determine whether he's the guy who can really deliver the agenda. And there's some important things on the agenda. I mean, you've got the reconciliation bill you want to have up there as close to President Trump's swearing in, which is the 20th of January, as possible, Anita. And so the question is Mike Johnson capable of doing it? I mean, there's a lot of people who feel that he's not. But I'm getting back to your original point. I do think that the way President Trump comes in or doesn't come in, or whether he stays silent, all those are signals to the members of the conference.
Mm-hmm. And quick answer here. Are you a yes vote for Johnson?
I have not committed publicly one way or the other, and I'm not committed privately either, too, Anita. I just kind of kept it to myself and hoping that we get this thing ironed out before January 3rd.
Okay, well, we'll be watching that. And while I've got you here, I want to ask you about another topic. There's a lot of talk now about the H-1B visa. This is a visa that sort of clears the way for highly skilled foreign workers to come into the country. Elon Musk is calling for more people to have access to the H-1B visa or change the process, make it easier for them to come in. Let's listen to a tweet that he had about this. So Elon Musk says, the number of people who are super talented engineers and super motivated in the USA is far too low. Think of this like a pro sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. That enables the whole team to win. Your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, an H-1B visa isn't limited to STEM graduates. People are going to come out in computer engineering, those types of things. It's really broader category than that. And so I was looking at a couple of studies yesterday. H-1B visa recipients who are in the U.S., they tend to get paid less than U.S. citizens. They work longer hours. They're tied to one company. They can't leave. All those benefit the ownership. And so I understand why people who own companies want the H-1B visas. But the other aspect of it is when you do skills test and assessment, another report I was looking at said, well, you know, USA STEM graduates, of which there's a surplus right now for jobs, and they can't get those jobs because they're competing with H-1B visas, they do better. And the last point to make here is this isn't just, nobody's trying to say no more H-1B visas. What Elon and others are trying to do is they're trying to expand the number of H-1B visas and not necessarily even limit it to categories. And we have to really look at that possibly at some point. But right now, let's get a hold of our border and the millions of people who've come into this country illegally and try to resolve that first.
Yeah, well, that is the thought of a number of people in Congress who say, you know, America first, right? Representative Andy Biggs, so good to see you today, and thanks for all your insight. And we'll be watching that vote on the 3rd and see how you end up.
Yeah, thanks, Anita.
Okay.